The history of Vault 108. The history of Vault 108 is a story whispered across the capital Wasteland with unease. Like all Vault-Tec facilities, it was advertised as a safe haven for a chosen few, a refuge from nuclear fire. But behind the polished advertisements and promises of security lay a darker reality. Vault 108, like so many of its kind, was never meant to preserve life. It was designed to study how life crumbles. Its residents entered those steel doors, believing they had been saved, but they had walked into a trap. By the time the world above was reduced to ash and ruin, the fate of Vault 108 was already sealed. Its overseer was doomed, its systems sabotaged, and in the deepest chambers of the vault, a grotesque experiment was waiting to be unleashed. The name of that experiment and the legend it spawned would echo for centuries in one chilling word: Gary. Designing failure. Vault 108's construction followed the familiar template of the other shelters. Thick reinforced doors, multiple levels of living quarters, a reactor, and an overseer's office to govern daily life. But buried within its blueprints were fatal flaws. The main power supply was designed to fail after just 20 years. This was intentional. There were no redundant backups, no long-term solutions. Vault-Tec engineers had created a countdown clock disguised as a generator. Medical facilities were another weak point. Logs recovered from the Vault list fewer than half the supplies given to similar facilities. In one fragment, a shipment manifest ends abruptly with a redacted note. Internal memo. Vault 108. Supply shipment. Per Directive VT 108MD. Standard medical allocation reduced by 60%. Focus on basic first aid and palliative supplies. Advanced care unnecessary. In short, Vault-Tec prepared for sickness and injury, not to be healed, but to be studied. The final stroke of sabotage came in the selection of the overseer. Brody Jones, a man competent in leadership but stricken with a terminal illness, was chosen to govern Vault 108. Vault-Tec's own projections estimated he would live no more than 3 to 5 years after the doors sealed. His inevitable decline and death would destabilize the Vault. This was the point. Vault 108 was not meant to test survival. It was meant to test collapse. The overseer's burden. For the first months after the bombs fell, Vault 108 appeared functional. Families adjusted to their new routines, rations were distributed, and life underground began. Overseer Jones delivered his speeches from the podium with calm resolve, though the strain was already visible. Fragments of his terminal entries survive, painting the picture of a man who understood his role all too well. Overseer Log Day 183. The coughing has worsened. Doctor says there's little more they can do. I will continue my duties for as long as I am able. The people need stability, and I will not fail them. Though I sometimes wonder if Vault-Tec has already decided that for me. Overseer Log Day 732. The power systems are showing early signs of instability. Engineers insist everything is within spec, but I see the worry in their faces. When I am gone, who will lead them through this? The overseer's fears were not misplaced. His death came quietly sometime in the Vault's 3rd year. Without him, the fragile balance collapsed. Rival groups jostled for authority, trust eroded, and discipline crumbled. Yet even as this played out among the residents, a darker story was unfolding below their feet. The Gary Project. In the restricted lower levels, the cloning lab was active almost from the beginning. It was Vault-Tec's true experiment. While the residents above struggled with daily life, Scientists in the lab pursued a far more grotesque ambition: the replication of human beings. The chosen subject was Gary. Who he was before the experiment remains unclear. His name appears in fragments of scientific logs, but without context. Some believe he was a Vault-Tec technician assigned to the project. Others speculate he was a volunteer or a prisoner. What is certain is that he was reduced to raw material. The cloning process produced one failure after another. The Garys were unstable, aggressive, and unpredictable. Scientists recorded their observations with clinical detachment. Lab log 108-13. Subject Gary, 12, exhibited extreme hostility upon activation. Attacked staff without provocation. Containment failed. Subject terminated. Lab log 108-27. Subject Gary, 23, demonstrates limited speech capacity, repeats own name in various inflections. Behavior consistent with prior clones, violent, compulsive. Recommend increased sedation during testing. The experiment nevertheless continued. Each clone was marked with a number to track progress, reaching as high as Gary 53. Yet none displayed the stability hoped for. Instead, their vocabulary shrank until they could speak only a single word: their name. Gary, said as a whisper, shouted as a threat, repeated endlessly in laughter or rage or confusion. The scientists may have hoped refinement would one day yield a breakthrough, but the Vault's instability was accelerating. Power fluctuations grew worse. Supplies dwindled. Overseer Jones died. And then one day, containment failed. Collapse of the Vault. When the Garys broke free of the lab, Vault 108 descended into horror. Residents who had once feared only the failing power supply suddenly found themselves hunted in their own halls. One survivor's fragment, recovered from a damaged personal log, describes the terror. Resident log, unknown date. I don't understand. They all look the same. Same face, same voice. They just keep saying Gary over and over. We tried to fight, but how do you fight when your attacker looks like your neighbor? I hear them in vents. I don't think there's many of us left. Panic consumed the Vault. Families barricaded themselves in rooms, only to be overrun by wave after wave of clones. The Garys seemed tireless, their violence instinctive. The corridors rang with a chorus of their name, overlapping voices that mocked the very idea of individuality. By the time silence returned, the Vault was lost. Its original residents were slaughtered. The cloning lab was no longer an experiment, but the heart of the Vault, its creations, the only inhabitants that remained. Vault 108 had become a hive. Rediscovery. For generations, the Vault lay sealed, its legend spreading by word of mouth. Scavengers avoided it. Caravans gave it wide berth. Travelers spoke of strange noises carried on the wind when camped too near. One Wastelander's story survives, told to a caravan guard and later recorded Wastelander account oral testimony. We were camped about a mile out. Dead quiet night, no breeze. Then we heard it. Not close, but clear enough. A man's voice, maybe two or three. They weren't talking, just saying a name. Over and over. Gary, Gary, like a prayer or a curse. We broke camp before dawn and never went back. It was not until the journey of the lone wanderer that Vault 108 was breached again. The massive steel door, long undisturbed, ground open to reveal a tomb frozen in time. Dust lay thick across the floors. Lights flickered weakly overhead. The silence was suffocating. And then, from the darkness, Gary, the clones, had endured. Dozens of them stalked the halls, armed with rusted weapons, attacking with feral laughter and shouts of their own name. Their numbers were uncertain, but their persistence was absolute. The lone wanderer encountered them again and again. Identical faces, lunging from the shadows, their eerie chorus echoing in the steel corridors. The overseer's office remained, his terminal still glowing faintly with fragments of his weary logs. The medical wings were stripped bare, their inadequacy plain, and in the cloning lab, the shattered remains of equipment testified to the origins of the nightmare. Yet the true legacy of the lab was alive and roaming, shrieking their name as they hunted intruders. Vault 108 is remembered as one of Vault-Tec's cruelest designs. It combined multiple failures into a single doomed system. A dying overseer, a failing power grid, insufficient medical resources, and a cloning experiment designed to spiral into chaos. Its residents were never meant to survive. They were raw data for an experiment that replaced a community with an echo chamber of one man's fractured identity. Other vaults tested loyalty, obedience, or isolation. Vault 108 tested collapse, and in doing so, it erased individuality itself. The Garies are not simply violent clones, they are parodies of humanity, stripped of everything but a name, repeating it until it becomes meaningless. In them, one sees the ultimate cruelty of Vault-Tec, the annihilation of self. Even today, Wastelanders who pass near the site tell the same story. If you listen closely at night, when the air is still, you might hear it. A whisper, faint but persistent. A voice stripped of all words but one, Gary. And if you hear it once, you will hear it again and again, until you realize that it is not just one voice, but many, echoing, multiplying. That is the legacy of Vault 108. A vault not remembered for salvation, but for horror. A vault where the future of humanity was replaced by a chorus of one name.